Okay, we are recording now. Yeah, we can start. David, if you want to start introducing, go ahead, and then I'll follow.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everyone, for being here. So today we are having one, I think this is the third or the fourth meeting we have for this TG. And the real purpose of this meeting is to help us to have the last push to try to have a bigger set of data and possibly support you in some something that is not clear so far on how to fill the template we provided you. So I'm gonna very briefly introduce the TG, and then I'm gonna leave the stage to Hannah, that is gonna try and answer any question, or at least show what we think we can provide you in this part that is really the end, hopefully, of this exercise. So this TG is within the WMR, as you know, and we started a while ago now, a little bit more than a year, but we really went in the details in the last months. Myself and Anna, then now we are not anymore in Nottingham, but we are in Spain and Italy, even though I still work with Nottingham. And Anna, you can go forward, I think, pretty quickly. And very briefly, as we said, we started in November 19, and we started at a collection in 2020. We provided some template, and now we really will need some data from you. And today, hopefully, we can help you with that. Next slide. So what are we trying to do with the TG? Really a very short recap. The first exercise that we are trying to benchmark asphalt mixtures. What does that mean in few words? There are different exercises that have been made to provide the environmental impact of asphalt mixture, that, by the way, is a family of material, right? What we're trying to do is to collect data for conventional asphalt mixture, regardless of the formulas and their application. So you can provide us with hot mix asphalt, warm mix asphalt, half warm mix. They can also be cold, but I think we are more focused on hot mix asphalt and not cold application, but anything is welcome. And of course, this asphalt mixture are then used for wearing courses, or binder courses, or base courses, and their impact, at least in terms of global warming potential and energy consumption, that are the two parameters that we are considering, it can be different. It can be different, especially if we go deeper in the in also the process of extraction of aggregate, transport, manufacturing. So what we're trying to do is, first of all, as a community of asphalt technologists, trying to give some benchmark values of possibly groups of this asphalt. We still are trying to group the results to provide the scientific community with some values of global warming potential and energy that can be considered as average values for that type of asphalt, or maybe that region of the world. Okay, so this is the benchmark exercises that first of all we're doing. And to do that, we will need you to provide us with data related to the material, basically recipes of asphalt mixture, and data related with where the aggregates come from, and possibly where also the component come from, but also more detailed data on the manufacturing process. Because again, we're doing a cradle to gate exercise, so related only to the manufacturing of the asphalt mixture. And So we define a template for that, and the partner really should identify what we call case studies and provide us with this data, with an important remark that each data should come with some identification of where this data come from. Because each process, each LCA or lifecycle inventory should come with some data quality information. I think you can move slide, Anna.
Yep.
So the second part of the exercise is to basically have information not only on conventional asphalt, but doing exactly the same exercise with the what we call WMR asphalt that are supposed to be more environmental friendly. So same data, same type of data, same way to collect the data, but of these two different family of material. This will allow us to take the benchmark and then doing the same exercise for the WMR asphalt, compare the benchmark with this WMR and trying to understand whether we are actually dealing with more environmental friendly asphalt mixture, always considering a cradle to gate boundary, okay? So there is no durability here or maintenance procedure. It's really related to the manufacturing of the asphalt, extraction, transport, and manufacturing of the asphalt mixture. Same thing, case study here. So I think that was clear. If there is any question, I can take it later. You can move the slide, Anna. And I think that this type of exercise is really starting to provide training for those asphalt technologists that are for the first time approaching exercises with life cycle assessment. So we provided already a template that we spent some time to do it. And again, today, I hope that any doubts can be clarified. And we will perform as a coordination the exercise, so the LCA, with some software that we have, the proprietary software. But possibly what we can do is, we hope to do, maybe in a second stage, is that all of you, with the data that we collected and with your case study, you can actually do your LCA with some free software or your software, and then we can compare the results of the LCA to understand what is the differences, what is the accuracy and precision of results, and allow you to actually train your skills in doing LCA. I think that concludes my part, Anna, or there is some other slides. So maybe it's up to 14.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, a couple of things more. Up to you.
So I think we discussed about the training, and the result will be compared with the benchmarks, but also possibly with the exercise that the TG leaders will do. This is really the third stage. And if you can move on. Yes, Laurent, you can ask question anytime, and everyone can ask question anytime.
Hello, everyone. Good
Hello,
afternoon.
Laurent.
Nice to see you, even if it's on a virtual. One quick question, in fact, Davide, Anna, in the context of secondary materials and waste stream, you say that you consider only cradle to gate.
Yeah.
I think, do you still consider as well cradle to grave, in the sense that with new streams or by product stream, the performance on the road is also very important?
Of course it is, Laurent. It's paramount, but if we have to approach sustainability assessment correctly, I think we should do a technical committee. Okay.
But then, in fact, the outcome from the different TG can be very useful as well to integrate in your analysis.
They can be, although this exercise is really around starting to have data sets, no? They come from primary data collection. So to arrive to what we think can be some average value, some benchmark,
Yeah.
they can be considered by the community. Then each of us can do exercises, LCA exercises with different mixture. But having a round robin or interlaboratory test in data collection and benchmarking, we thought was the real first step that we should do as asphalt technologies approaching LCA.
But then you are collecting the data, the primary data for waste material, secondary materials, or on any type of material like aggregates, like processing, like bitumen.
Did you receive the template?
Yeah, but I was not able to open the template.
Oh.
Was something strange with my computer.
Oh, you should tell us. Well, I think again, we spent some time on doing that, and I'm not saying that to underline it, just to say, because I think we thought it through. And it's really to help you collect data in the really as detailed as possible. Of course, what you can.
So whatever the data, including for conventional materials like aggregates, like bitumen and so on.
Aggregates, additives, any secondary material that we are including in the process, but also any other that other partners would like to include.
Yeah. Okay.
But
okay, good. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other question? It's more than welcome. Yeah, communication. It's in there, and we are using now only ResearchGate to communicate. And I don't know whether we are talking. Anna, you can go ahead. There is another slide, if I'm not wrong. No, maybe this is more you. Okay.
Yep.
And then Anna, just to say, maybe you're gonna talk about it at the end, but I just wanted to also highlight what are our plans for possible common publications. What is the outcome of this TG? I'm not sure whether it's going to be covered after, but we can.
There is a the last slide is for that. You want to mention it now? Or?
Go on. No. Move on. We can talk about it later.
Okay, then we can talk about that.
Any question? Sorry, Anna, just to say, any question? Not at the moment. We can take it later. Please, Anna.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, David, for the reminder of all our objectives of how we are performing the tasks. And now what I wanted to do is just an update on the activities, the actual activities that we've been doing during these months regarding the different tasks that David mentioned. So the first one was the creation of benchmarks for asphalt mixtures, right? So for this, as you know, we mentioned it or we commented it in previous meetings. We perform a literature review, working on how benchmarking is done for LCA in the construction sector. So at the end, out of that literature review, we have defined this benchmarking methodology that is general. Okay, we will apply it for asphalt mixtures, but in our case, but it's a general benchmarking methodology for the construction, any product in the construction sector. So working on that literature review, we identified that the benchmarking should be done following 3 main steps. These steps are what you see there on the left. So it's first the data collection, including different sub-steps as the goal and scope definition, case study and policy target compilation, and data classification. The second big step is the performance of the LCA itself using case studies. So having the lifecycle inventory of the case studies, performing a data quality analysis, which is quite important, and then undertaking the lifecycle impact assessment. The final step is the benchmark generation itself, that is sort of the interpretation of result in this exercise. And there is a fourth step, well, in between step 2 and 3, that is optional and is the data environment analysis that we want to do here in our TG, but it's there. At the same time that we identify the bent steps of the benchmarking processes, we also found or defined methodological variables that should be defined in those steps. Okay, so we found 5 main variables, and these are the three first ones are within the first step, that is the data collection, and we have to define first of all our study scope. And in our TEG, we are going to do a large-scale study, okay, considering that we want to collect as many case studies and data as possible. We have to choose our model typology. This model typology is related to the type of data that we are going to use, meaning that if external, we want to use case studies, okay, so real data. Well, if it's internal, you can take data from standards or a specification. And also there can be a mix of both internal and external. You can see there also with colors what is most recommended for the construction sector is external, and that's what we are trying to do here, right? Collecting data from case studies, mainly from all of you. And the last variable within this first step is to choose the benchmark approach, that it can be top-down or bottom-up. Both approaches are recommended, and this is related to the type of on how we choose the impacts for our materials or data. So meaning if we are working or taking the impact from industry or from sector-wide data, and then so it's like using general data and then make it more specific for our product. Or if we are using data from from actual processes to get to our product. It's a bit complicated, but we are doing the bottom-up approach. We chose that one because it's more precise. So it means that we are actually taking data from processes, meaning, for example, the manufacturing of aggregates, bitumen, etc., to get to our product, that is the asphalt mixture. Okay. Then the fourth methodological variable that we define, well, that we need to select is the database. You know that we can choose primary data, that's the best always, or the most recommended one, but we can also use existing databases or collect secondary data if we don't have any of the others available. And we are happy here in our TG, we will be happy with any of this type of data that you can provide. And finally, in the third step, we have to select the type of benchmarks that we want to define. There are different types. There is limit value, reference value, short-term and long-term targets. We found this in a recently released ISO standard, but Tom will talk a bit more about them later on. But this is the final picture of the methodology that we've been working on defining through the literature review. Okay, just wanted to show it to you. So within our TG, we have done when we work on the step 1.1. So we have now defined our goal and scope definition. Well, this happened at the beginning of the TG, is one of the first steps. And as we were discussing with Laurent, we are focusing on asphalt mixtures. So we are doing a cradle to gate analysis, focusing. This means that we work on analyzing the raw material supply, transport to plant, and the manufacturing life cycle stages of the mix. So these three stages. Our declared unit is 1 ton of manufactured asphalt mixture, and we are going to calculate 2 impact categories: global warming potential and energy. Tell me, Ben, I see you raise your hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you also planning to incorporating traffic in your declared unit?
We're planning to include what?
Traffic. Because
traffic.
For example, comparing an SMA with an AC, if they are for different traffic levels.
Yeah, so we are focusing on asphalt mixtures, but then what we will do is that we can define benchmark depending on the type of mix. That's something that we will show you later. We have already an idea of what type of categories we can do, so we can do it depending on the manufacturing temperature, we can do it depending on traffic, and actually we wanted to get some more ideas or inputs from you. And yeah, we'll talk about it later on. Then if traffic is not there in the table, just let us know and we will include it, because that's definitely a good point. Okay. Yeah. So I was saying, yeah, that we will work on global warming potential and energy at the moment. This is not new or anything, you knew that. And we are now working on the steps 1.2 and 1.3 at the same time that because we are collecting the data from you, at the same time that we are starting with the analysis. How we are collecting the data? Well, we sent the data collection tool in November 2020. Hope you all have it now. I know some people joined the TG a bit later, so I think everyone has it now. And if it's not working or something is happening, let us know. I know that it was not working from Laurent. We tried to fix it, but we couldn't, or we didn't keep in touch. But let us know if you have any issue. It's a compressed file, so you just have to open it with WinRAR or WinZip, and then you get one PDF thing with the manual on how to use it, and then 6 files for conventional mixtures and WMR mixtures to fill the data. We'll see it now. So up to date, we have received data from TNO, from the University of Antwerp, EMPA, and we have case studies from the University of Granada and from the University of Palermo. So thank you very much for those who already sent data. And as Davide said, we have this meeting here to try to encourage you or try to show you that, I don't know, if you were finding some difficulties using the template, it's not that, we are here to try to make things easier. So let's try, let's see.
Anna, just to complement,
Yeah.
I wanted to say that some partner provided more case studies. For instance, we have from TNO, if I'm not wrong, 19, yeah. 19 case studies, the same did Antwerp, the same we have in Granada, Palermo. So we are trying to get the biggest data set as possible, so to have different groups and making differentiation like asphalt concrete and SMA, as you were mentioned earlier on. But really, as many case studies you can send us, the better would be the result.
Of course, I mean, we talk here about sending a case study, but the more you send, the better. Yeah, I think in the tool we gave you one Excel file for hot mix, one for warm mix, something like that. But you can just copy and paste them and do as many as data you have available. Yeah. And what TNO sent us is already LCA. So I'll tell you. I'll talk about it. So well, as I said, we are in the process of doing those steps. But at this point, maybe you say, okay, we are talking about a case study, about the data, cradle to gate, but what is really a case study? No? What are we talking about here in the TG? Well, a case study for us, for this exercise, is something quite simple. And the only thing you need to have is the manufacturing of an asphalt mixture. Okay. I think most of us have been working on that or have seen that. And it can be 2 types of case studies. Okay, it can be conventional. What we understand for conventional here is that the mix does not contain any waste materials. But again, it can be, as David was highlighting, any type of mix, SMA, AC, porous asphalt. It can be for any type of layer, okay, for wearing courses, binder courses, bare courses, or for any manufacturing temperature, any type of traffic level, whatever. It's just a mix that does not contain any waste material. And then we will work on the analysis and see how to deal with the data. And the second type is the purpose of the TG, that is mixtures containing waste and secondary materials. Okay, that can be ground rubber and reclaimed asphalt. It can be plastic, it Can be steel, slag, whatever waste or secondary materials, secondary material that you have been working on for the production of asphalt mixtures. Okay, that's a case study. So the manufacturing of an asphalt mixture in a plant, or in the lab if you have data for energy consumption. That's what we are going to see now. So okay, at this point, I think that most of us think, okay, I have a case study, no? But now what information do I need to provide? As we were mentioning, we are doing a cradle to gate analysis. So we work on 3 life cycle stages. We have the raw material supply, transport to plant, and manufacturing. And here is where you can use the tool that we provided. Okay, if you open any of the Excel files that we send you, you see that the file, the tabs, the file is divided in tabs related to these life cycle stages. Well, we have some previous tabs as cover, instruction, and general info. That's okay. And then we have a tab for raw material supply, the first life cycle stage, transport, second life cycle stage, and manufacturing. So let's start with the first one. Okay, we have the tab for raw material supply. What you can provide here, I'm talking here that you can provide the data, but of course this tool or template is also for you to use it in the future for any LCA that you want to provide. So it's a tool that we gave you, and at least with this you get the idea of the type of data that you need for doing LCA. So you can use it in the future for collecting data, and if you have the data now, to give it to us. What are we asking here? What does the template, what it's prepared for? To provide data for the production of the individual components of the mix. So you can provide data about the production of the binder, the obtention of the fine aggregates, coarse aggregates, filler, reclaimed asphalt, polymers, crown rubber, any type of component, any component that you have in the mix. If you don't find it here, there's also a section that is just others. So you say the material that you are providing data for and fill the template. What are we asking for? Fuel consumption, electricity, transport for the materials, those type of things. Okay, this is probably the most difficult part when doing LCA for asphalt mixtures. Why? Because we are not binder producers or aggregates producers, so it's not easy to get it. Okay, what do we usually do? We use databases. Now there's the LCI for bitumen from Eurobitum, or data that we find in literature or other reports. But it's fine. So if you don't have this data for the TG, so you don't have data about the production of the binder, the aggregates, reclaimed asphalt, etc., it's not an issue. Okay, you can go on using the template and don't worry about that. Don't think, okay, I don't have this data. No, I cannot participate in the TG. It's not like that. Okay, we just go on and we go to the second life cycle stage. Okay, in this case is the transport to asphalt plant. What are we asking here? Is about the transport of the components of the asphalt mix from their production site to the asphalt plant. So in the case of the aggregates, is how the transport is done from the quarry, for example, to the asphalt plant. In the case of the binder, the transport from the binder plant to the asphalt plant. And like that with all the individual components of the mix. Again, the template is very detailed, it's very complete, so you could provide data.
Are people here? Did we lose Anna?
Yeah, I think we lost
I guess, yeah, I guess you lost Anna.
Okay. Well, I wasn't sure if it was me. Yes, we have to wait.
I lost the connection, right?
Yes.
Yes.
When?
Okay.
Okay.
The transport, but I think you
Okay.
completed the transport, so you can go to the other slide.
Okay. So it's not. I didn't speak alone for very long. That's fine.
Did you say alone?
I think it's 30 seconds or something like that. Not that embarrassing. Okay, yes. So for the transport, I don't know. Yeah. It's fine, easy, no? So what we really need is the vehicle type, as I was saying, or the mean of transport, and the distance travel. So the kilometers from the quarry to the asphalt plant in the case of the aggregates, or from the distance from the processing plant of the reclaimed asphalt to the reclaimed asphalt stockpile to the asphalt plant. That if the reclaimed asphalt is already in the asphalt plant, the distance is 0. So this type of distance, okay? And then again, if you don't have this data, it's not a problem. You can continue providing something else even more important than that, or at least tell us, oh, I don't have this data, and we will see what to do. Because the main or the most important data that we need is in the third life cycle stage, that is during the manufacturing. Okay, and what we, or at least we put it here in the template, and it's the mix design and the energy consumption in the asphalt plant. Okay, this data is provided here in this tab, as I'm saying. So what we ask you is the formula, no? the recipe of the mix. Again, it can be any type of mix, and what we need to know is how many kilos of aggregates, virgin aggregates, coarse, filler, the type of filler and the amount, if there is wrap, the amount of wrap, if there is a waste material, any type of, the amount of that type of material. And any, well, you know what it is, the mix design of the asphalt mix, and the energy consumption in the asphalt plant. This can be primary data that you took during the production of that mix, but it can be also average or annual data from the plant. So if you manufacture an asphalt mix, but you didn't take the data in that moment, you can still go to the plant owner and say, what is your annual consumption, energy consumption, electricity consumption, or average? And that data is also fine for us. It's also, in fact, very good. Okay. So, and then in the template, again, we also give the chance to tell us if you have done any previous LCA of that asphalt mixtures. So imagine that you already performed this type of exercise, and what you have is actually the impact indicators of that mix. So you can also provide that, telling us always the impact assessment methodology that you use, or the source, or where you found this data. But in summary, and what we wanted to highlight today, is that this is what we need. Okay, a case study is the manufacturing of an asphalt mixture, and the data that we really need is the mix design and energy consumption in an asphalt plant. Any question up to that?
One question, Anna. Yeah. So I know that TG3 and I think Augusto is here, so maybe he can add some information. So TG3 did a laboratory study of mixtures with a lot of secondary materials, chrome rubber, steel slag, I think construction and demolition waste. So yeah, there's that could be a good source of information. Now the problem is that yeah, I wonder how many of those mixtures have been produced in an asphalt plant. So the energy probably is not available. But as far as mix designs go, there's plenty of those in TG3. So I don't know if that could be of help. Maybe ask TG3 if any of those mixtures were produced at a plant, and maybe they know energy consumption.
I can reply, David, because I think I'm a little bit updated because I was at the last TC meeting, and yes, you're right, but you're also right that they were not produced in the plant, so it's all done in the lab. So we can use that recipes. It's not the case study we want, right? It's not
right.
the case. it would be good to have real case study, to actually get primary data. But good point though. We can still ask recipes.
Yeah. So ideally, as I was saying, we need the mixture manufacturing in the plant, especially because we want to benchmark asphalt mixtures. So if we don't have the energy consumption in the plant, we are just working with recipes. It's a bit, I don't know, getting like an average recipe of asphalt mixtures, and that's it. Not with the real energy consumption. But it's something we have discussed also with Lily and Emiliano. Thank you. Yeah. So that was from me, more or less. And now some more updates on what we have been doing. I leave the word to Tom. I think you know him from previous meetings. Tom is a research fellow here at the University of Granada, and he's working very, very actively in the TG. Hello, Tom.
Hello, everybody. Hello. I'm going to quickly go over some of the extra parts about the TG. So from all the data that you've already kindly provided to us, we've started to create a database with all this information. As you can see here, there's a screenshot from stage A3 manufacturing. And basically from all this data, we're able to run the LCA case studies. And obviously, the more data we have, the more accurate benchmarks we can create, and the better kind of benchmark families we can create as well. For example, as Ben said about mixed type, AC or SMA. So if we have this information about all the mixtures, we can then create better benchmark outputs and categories. Next slide, please, Anna.
Can I just one thing, Tom? Anna, if you can go back to that slide. I just wanted to clarify that really what we need to at least do the minimum exercise is to have one row of this table from each of you. If we have one row, we can include you in the exercise. If you give us more rows, more case studies, that would be great, and you'll understand we can arrive to more accurate results. But really, the exercise for data collection, it might be complex what we just show you, but really it's quite straightforward if you have the data. So this slide is important to show you that we really will need to fill this type of table. And if it's needed, we can circulate that. It's easier. Please, Tom, go on, sorry.
Yeah, and of course, if we sent out the collection template, but if you have, for example, reports or previous findings already written, then you can send those as well. For example, we had a lot of case studies from TNO. They were very kind to share that with us. About 17 or more cases. They provided it in Dutch, but we've managed to extract the information we wanted. So send it in whatever language. I might regret saying that later, but go ahead. Once we compile the database, we will then go to create the LCA of the case study. So as we can see, step 2 of the benchmarking process that Anna explained earlier. And we'll use this data to define the energy requirements and the global warming potential of each of the case studies. This will be done via Gabi software, which is a licensed software with a fully critically reviewed database. So the data in there we can trust. It's been externally critically reviewed. And on top of conducting the LCA, we'll also do a data quality assessment. So next slide, please, Anna. So here we can see a screenshot of the Gabi software. For example, working in alphabetical order, we have one of the University of Antwerp cases provided kindly by Ben and David. And here you can see how Gabi kind of models the flows to create the asphalt mixture, the final product. Just to show you a quick example. Next slide, please, Anna. Also, reviewing the data provided, it's always important that the data is transparent, the results are transparent. So we're going to make a matrix to review all the case studies provided and the data we're going to be using. This will be mainly based on the pedigree matrix, which is kind of like the standard in LCA, but also looking at pavement-specific matrices. So, for example, the University of California Pavement Research Center, they've got quite a big matrix to review data, so we can look at that. And obviously, within the objectives of the RILEM exercise, also adapt it further. Next slide, please. And step 3 of the process, create benchmarks. This will be based on the novel ISO 21678, published, it was released last year, their guidelines for benchmark declarations. So for the energy and the global warming potential of per ton of mixture. And the standard recommends 3 key values, which is the limit, reference, and target values, where you can also split the target values into 2. The limit value is basically current practice. What are we doing now? That's kind of the limit value. We can't go below that. Reference value is state of the art. So what's the best that we're currently doing would be a reference value that we don't want to be achieving the limit value, we want to be on the reference value. Short-term target and long-term target, they're kind of more open to what we prefer. So for example, the long-term target could be 2050, where the IPCC say we can't go above 20 degrees, not 22 degrees, sorry. So what would that mean for a pavement? We can't go beyond that. Short term could be 2030. For example, the EU want a 40% reduction in emissions compared to 1990. So obviously the target values are more open to interpretation. The limit would be current practice. Reference would be state of the art. And we want to be at the state of the art. Next slide, please, Anna. We started to draft some benchmark families and output type. Well, the output types are the ones we mentioned. The families, this kind of really depends on the data, how much data we have and the quality of the data. But for example, again, referring back to what Ben said, per mixture type, we have mixed type, so densely graded, stone mastic, porous. Depending on the type of mixtures we have, we can then create benchmarks from this. Obviously, pavement layer. Waste materials, so comparing the conventional to a wrap-based mixture or one with crumb rubber. Manufacturing temperature, plant type, so is it fuel oil or natural gas, or is it a batch plant, for example, and the country. So from the mixtures provided, we can also provide a reference value for the country, obviously a geographical variable there. And of course, yeah, thanks, Ben. The traffic is not yet mentioned here, but we can include that as well. Yeah, next slide, please, Anna. Well, that's all from me. Back to Anna.
Okay, thank you, Tom, very much. Do you have any comments on that? I think, yeah, we will add traffic level, of course, as a...
Yeah, Anna, can I just ask Ben on this? So, can you clarify, Ben, what do you mean traffic level? So what do you exactly mean? Because this is more on the technology of the asphalt mixture. So maybe there is something I don't catch.
Yeah, so in our case in Belgium, roads are always categorized based on the number of E-cells over a given period.
Okay.
And they design the mixtures differently. Okay. So you can have, for example, have an AC10 for a lower class or a higher class. But of course, they will need, or they will use better materials, for example, or a better binder for the higher traffic classes. And in that case, yeah, you shouldn't compare it to the lower class because they're used for different purposes.
Perfect. So I think I got what do you mean? Well, what we're doing is that we are receiving data, okay? And then we group. Grouping for traffic, I think, can be something useful when we will have a lot of data, for instance, for asphalt concrete, SMA, rather than wearing course, base course, binder course. Okay, so it's definitely, you did well in highlighting. I don't think we are yet to that point. At this moment, we're trying first to understand whether, for instance, there is a difference in terms of benchmark between AC and SMA, for instance, because we really don't know. From what we know at the moment, with the uncertainty that comes with the data and the precision we have in results, where there is a crumb rubber modified asphalt or for wearing courses, of an asphalt concrete for base courses, I don't really know how to tell that whether the benchmark value is different or not. So thanks for the highlight. Really, I don't think we're yet at that moment, but this is something we will take a note, and possibly if this exercise go further, I think we can go in the direction. Sorry, Anna, go on.
No. Yeah, well, we said that we were going to talk about publications a little bit, so I just dropped here a couple of ideas. I see two things as outputs of the exercise. One is the LCA benchmarking of conventional asphalt mixtures. So I'm not saying this is a publication itself. We have to see, of course, the data and how everything evolves. But this would be presenting the results of applying the benchmarking methodology to the case studies that we receive in the TG for conventional mixtures, so mixtures not containing waste and secondary materials. And the second output or idea is the comparative LCA for this WMR asphalt mixture. So in this case, comparing the results of this analysis to the benchmarks that we obtain, and include further interpretation of results, such as the sensitivity analysis for the different life cycle stages, different amount of materials, etc. So these are the ideas, more or less, that we would be working on for publications, papers or conferences, this type, right? And then there is another type that is the RILEM publications, such as the STAR report, that to be an author of this, you need to have the RILEM membership. That's something to highlight. But really, this slide was more for brainstorming, no? And have your inputs and ideas as well on how you see the outputs. Costas raised the hand. Yeah, Costas.
Costas, did you raise the hand for a question? Yes, please go ahead. Well, maybe he's still thinking about it. In the meanwhile, just wanted to clarify that for those who don't know, the STAR report is basically a state of the art that usually technical committees of RILEM produce. And what is gonna be is basically a chapter of a bigger manuscript, which is probably a collection of chapters that will be linked to the other TG of the technical committee. I believe Augusto is coordinating this effort for the TC. So we will comply with what Augusto will ask. But as a TG leader, we will possibly coordinate the writing of this TG and then involve partners. For the other two, these are publications that, I mean, we target scientific journal mainly. Then if there is some specific conference, we may consider it. At this point, Anna, if you agree, I really would like to possibly know if someone from the TG would like to be involved more. If there are other ideas, if you want to support us with the analysis of data, with the starting, coordinating the writing of some papers, for instance, or the chapter. I know the results are still not coming, but we are almost there. But the publication can be something we can already work on, and there can be some working groups. think Ben is asking. Go on,
Yes.
Ben.
Sorry, I lost the
data-
connection for a minute again or something like that.
What is the database behind Gabby? Is it also EcoInvent or is it another database?
I think it's EcoInvent.
Okay.
There's the Gabby database, and there's also the EcoInvent one.
And are you planning on comparing both, or are you just sticking to, for example, the Gabby database itself?
At the moment, just the Gabby. I mean, we are considering sensitivity analyses of various types, but it kind of depends on the time restrictions that we have.
Yeah. Because yeah, for example, in that case, we are using CIMAPRO, but
Yeah.
if EcoInvent is also behind Gabby, then it doesn't matter whether you do it in Gabby or in CIMAPRO, because the same database is used.
But you see, Ben, could be interesting, for instance, in papers. You see, that's why we want to highlight now, because yes, we are doing the interlaboratory test exercise. We've got the data and the idea is there, but now we have to be practical and provide these recommendations. Probably amongst this publication, there will also be recommendations for the RILEM community. It's still not in there. But if you have some idea for using this data for a publication, please go ahead and propose it. And you want to compare the results with some other software database /database, it's fine. And to be honest, in these two papers, especially the comparative LCA, I think would be very, very nice to have a sensitivity analysis of databases, for instance.
And what I was also thinking, looking at the proposal, isn't it, for example, better to separate it in layers and then compare normal mixes with mixes containing waste materials, rather than having a paper with no waste materials and a paper with waste materials? Because in that case, you can, if you say, okay, the benchmark is, for example, a mix without recycling, then you can already show, okay, but if we use, I don't know, a certain amount of RAP, it decreases with X%. And then you can, for example, split it in base and surface, because in surface layers, probably less is recycled than in base layers.
Yeah, it can be. It can be.
Exactly. I mean, what?
Sorry, Anna, just to add that I think that if we find some coordinator, leader for writing these manuscripts, I have to say that previously in TG, we were used to work more, the TG leaders. I see Camilla here, and we did a lot of work, just me and Camilla. But I think that if we work more collaboratively, idea will come up. So these are our ideas, but what you just said, I think it's can be very well accepted and can be discussed within some working groups. That's the message. The first, just to conclude, the first paper probably is really the recommendations that we would like to give for RILEM. So the benchmarking of asphalt mixture, and then maybe there could be some idea on how environmental friendly is WMR in the paper. Please, Anna.
Yeah, no, exactly. That what I mentioned, that these are ideas of outputs of the TG, but it doesn't mean that we're thinking about one paper and another paper. So that's exactly what we wanted to see all together today. So this is something that we will get, the benchmark and then the comparative LCA with the WMR, but then see how to combine them and combine all the results that are coming from the case studies and the data that you provided for publications. So exactly, we think it has to be a collaborative work, with the participants. So getting your ideas is, and we are here for that as well.
Anna, I read what is in the chat because some people cannot communicate. So Costas was saying whether, VOC, volatile organic compound, and the other type of organic compound emitted during asphalt mixture production are taken under consideration since it is a benchmarking effort or not. I don't, at least if we don't have primary data of that, we are not considered as an input. If you are, Costas, if you mean as an output, as an indicator, I think we are considering only global warming potential and energy for this exercise. But maybe this can be done in a paper that can be done as a full LCA.
I think the emission from the plant itself, so VOC, may depend as well from local regional regulations.
Can you say it again, Laurent?
The VOC at the mixed plant, it may depend as well on local regulations.
Yeah, and on how you collect them as well.
Yes, how you treat that. So certainly in Switzerland, it will be much cleaner than in France. I can say that because I'm French.
Yeah.
I will not tell to other country.
Yeah, but
I think it's worth just to focus on energy use, emission from energy use. Also, in fact, for some waste material or some waste stream, maybe the VOC collected, the VOC emitted with the waste stream should be taken into account.
But you mean for the LCA?
Yes.
And hang on, how are you gonna implement that?
It's difficult, huh? I have no idea. I have no idea.
I mean, it's in the calculation. I don't know whether Costas wanted to say something or
but I don't think that it's taken into a Gabi or CIMA Pro.
And at the moment, I personally don't know how to introduce it, but maybe someone else has some other idea.
But I think this is a very important point that Constraint is making. Maybe in fact to just to make some advertisements at the beginning of any studies or papers to clarify assumptions that we do not really take into account the VOC. Difficult to tackle.
Okay, this is a note that we have to take. And maybe this can create some relation with the new TC, Laurent, because you started the new TC, correct?
Yes, something like this. But even that, at the mixed plant, if you collect the fume to burn, to incinerate the fume, or if you have a mixed plant that will not incinerate the fume, the VOC will be totally different. On the job site, but if you just state at the gate of the plant, it's okay. But on the job site, for example, in France, on the paver, there is some Stoffsucker, some vacuum to collect the fumes and to put that above, which is not the case, for example, in Germany.
Well, I personally think that it's a bit early stages for what Laurent said. So in actually collecting the data in an harmonized way. And then I'm curious to understand how to introduce this in the assessment, in the LCA exercise. And
hi, can you hear me now?
Costas, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. There was a problem with my microphone, I'm sorry, that's why I typed. As Laurent said, exactly, I haven't seen a case study so far that include these compounds, and I've seen in the literature review that they are very, very impactful. So there have been studies, theoretical studies, that they collect the fumes from laboratory production, small batches, and they analyze it. So maybe a way is to, I don't know, to maybe use the mass of the laboratory produced mixtures and in order to actualize it and make it an analogy to 1 ton of produced mixture, for example. I don't know. This is what I was thinking.
And Costas, can you introduce the results of emission measurement in an LCA?
Yeah, for example, the software that people usually use, they will not have a process in their database that is going to call asphalt mixture production. So usually it's a process that you will have to create by yourself. You have to introduce your input that would be based on your available data, such as water in kilograms or liters, energy, aggregate, and so on. And then you also have to model your outputs. So in your outputs, theoretically, you should also include the fumes that come produced during the production of these mixtures. Yeah. So one way to know these mixtures is to have contact with the people that have placed the filters on the chimneys of the asphalt production plants, which is a bit difficult. And the other way is to produce these mixtures in a lab environment in smaller quantities, and then measure the fumes there, which is way easier, and then make them proportionate to the temperature and the magnitude of the mass of.
But once you measure, can you introduce them in the LCA?
Yes, I think the microphone from Costas is having problems again.
Diana. Yeah, Diana. Yeah,
yes, you can introduce those emissions in the LCA study, but if you're looking only at global warming potential, then you won't see effects from those compounds. They are going to appear in air quality related impact categories.
Exactly.
So
okay.
Yeah. So there is not much sense in putting a lot of effort in doing that if we're just going to analyze global warming potential. But then another idea, well, there is a problem with using data from lab scale, which is usually at the industry level, it happens differently, or it is more efficient, or they are going to use different equipment to filter, or sometimes you can just use the limits provided in the legislation to model those emissions, and then take the maximum values for the modeling, and then you have like a conservative approach.
You know what? I think we should use all this that we are just talking about, and it's good that it's recorded, as a paragraph, as a section in the recommendation of the benchmarking or the LCA that we will produce. So we can focus our exercise on global warming potential and energy, but then in the recommendation, we could say that how to eventually suggesting perform LCA of asphalt mixture, and possibly including information whenever they are available, and the new TC could help, and suggest on how to do it. Well, thanks Diana and Costas for that, and Laurent. Another point is, I'm reading here what Laurent and Diana say that is about EcoInvent and Gabi. I agree, 2 different databases. We use Gabi because that's what we have. Whoever is using CIMAPRO, is it keen to provide, and EcoInvent in particular, is it keen to do the similar exercise that we are doing to actually compare them? Anyone? Any volunteer?
Well, but if Gabi has both databases, then you can probably connect the foreground model with either with Gabi background processes or EcoInvent processes. So it's much easier for the person that is already doing this modeling just to change the background processes than having it modeled by someone else in a different software.
It was also to share the load, but yeah, you're right, Diana. We can ask Tom whether you want to do it.
Do we have EcoInvent in Gabi?
I think we do. I think we have here.
Okay, because I know we used to have it. Not sure if we have it anymore. But yeah, if we do, it's something to
Yeah.
to
But
consider, of course.
in any case, anyone that would like to join, really, I know that in SimaPron you have to build a new model. If someone has Gabi, we may share the model.
Yeah, but then if you model it in a different software, you're going to introduce other disturbances in the system because the different softwares, they're going to use different flows in the background, and that also causes differences in the results afterwards. And then we won't be able to tell whether that is a difference because it's a database or because it's different software. So you have more variables that change. So it would be better just to have exactly the same model from the foreground being connected to a different background database. Yeah.
For this, I agree with what you say, Diana, but this is actually something that is going to reach our exercise. And it was the third point. So if we actually have some more software and we can understand whether this benchmarking value or whatever we found with the WMR, what is the accuracy? What is the precision? Because one dependence and one variability is depending on the data quality, but the other is on the softwares. Anyway, the message is whoever wants to support us with this exercise, also looking at other databases and other software, more than welcome. And we know that it's all voluntary based, but we all doing this thing voluntary based. And please let us know.
Okay.
I would like to ask you something. It's Eva. Hi. If you pretend to compare the LCA results from different countries, I mean, if you use the primary data, yeah, to do this LCA, to perform it, and if you separated this results from different countries, I would like to ask this because I know that we have many differences between the energy metrics and other variables from different countries. So would you compare these from different regions or just from same regions? I don't know.
Anna, you want to go or I reply?
Yeah. We will compare. I mean, of course, once we get the data, we need to see what the data look like. If you know that there are already a lot of differences from the energy matrix, as you were saying, for example, from Brazil, it wouldn't probably make sense to have it in the same benchmark value than data from Spain or something like that. So that's why we are having benchmark categories. Then the value, or how useful the benchmark is will depend on how much data we have per country. I mean, if we only have one case study in Brazil, it's a case study in Brazil, it's not a benchmark. So it's something that we have to see depending on the amount of data that we have and the differences between the data. So that's why also all the details that you can provide about the data is more than welcome. Is what we are looking for. I don't know if that replies. Yeah.
Well, there should also be, this is a problem in sustainability assessment in general, depending on the database you use, there should be regionalized database as well. But we are using as a reference Gabi database in this case, and possibly Coinvent. And here Tom or Costas, maybe Diana can also tell us, I don't know whether you can select, for instance, energy grid from Brazil or from Europe. I guess so.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So we could try that. But it will really depend on the data we receive, on the case study we receive.
Yep. So should we go through the last slide? Well, it's only final remarks. So we have been talking about all of this.
Yeah.
Well, we wrote here that the data collection is open until the 23rd of May. This is flexible, but we have to give you a deadline. So let's try to have all this data by that date, because our idea is to have the benchmark exercise at least by the end of June, July this year. At least this part for benchmarking, or have the data and see how far we can go for this benchmarking. Again, we were highlighting it during all the meeting, but the data we need is mainly the mix design, data about distances, transport distances to the asphalt plant, and the energy consumption. We were saying that both is primary data, but we can have data specifically for the mix that you are providing, but we can also have average or annual data from the plant, and that is fine as well. It's also very, very useful and very convenient. We are asking for case studies for conventional mixtures and WMR mixtures, so containing waste. As you know, you can provide one case study, or you can provide as many as data available you have. And again, this is something that Tom mentioned. If you have the data already in a certain format and you don't want to use the tool or the template, you don't have to. Just send the data in that format and we will try to work with it. As he said, we even work with the data from TNO in Dutch. So we can do it. We can do it. Or the last point, just contact us. So we see how to work with the data that you can provide. And that's everything from us, I think. Yep.
Yes. So last try until 23rd of May, and then we close. I mean, we already have results, but we really wanted to have as much as possible. So tell your friends.
Yeah. Spread the word.
Spread the word. And then after the 23rd, end of May, we will work on what we got. Yeah, other thing, I think that if someone wants to take the lead on some papers, on the report, and more than welcome. I understand that now it's possibly many information. If you want to think about it and tell us later on, it's fine.
Yep.
Any remark? Any question?
Okay, then.
Well, if there is, that's all. Anna, thanks a lot for this. Thanks to Tom as well, who's doing a lot of work. And yeah, let's be in touch. And thanks for being here, really. David, why don't you say that? Is it possible to increase the sample to use?
Yeah, I was thinking, you know, because if we don't have enough mix, or if the sample size is too small and we end up using average energy consumption, the nature of the mix doesn't really matter. So then maybe a possibility would be using mix designs that are available and then use an average energy consumption as an input.
Could be.
It's not ideal, but
yeah, but we can possibly do a
set resource.
We can do a set of mixture like that as long as we have data quality written.
Right.
But yeah, we will last TG3 for the rest of it, and we'll consider that. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
Maybe Augusto, are you here? Give us wave.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I was listening.
Augusto, did you listen about the proposal of David?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm not sure what really can be done. As we said before, this was the work for TG3 was done in the laboratory, and with little amount of material. So I'm not sure. I will talk to Emiliano and Fernando and see what they have to say.
But we have the recipes, no?
Yeah.
So at least if it's possible to have the recipes, we can include them, and then, as David said, we can use average data for the transport and manufacturing phase.
And see what we see. in the
We can
analysis.
try.
Yeah.
You know, it's also a way to harmonize the work of TGs. We can try. Let's see what we got, and then if it's, we can try. We can try.
Okay.
So, do you need me to send you an email or something? You can give it to us at a certain point.
First, I talk to the other guys. I will get back to you then.
Okay.
Thank you, Augusto. Thanks for the suggestion, David. Anyone else? Well, Laurent say very good plan, nice team. Thank you, Laurent.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here.
Thank you to all of you.
That's it for me.
Yeah. For me as well. So have a good evening for all of you, and we keep in touch. Okay. Okay, we'll send the recording of the meeting around.
Send the data. Send the data.
Okay.
Bye.
Good.
Bye.
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 Anita.
Let me stop the recording. Where?
Yeah.
Here.
People couldn't see me. I'm just realizing. I didn't take the minutes.